Welcome back to the Autodesk Design Academy. In this video, you will gain tips for modeling your own design from scratch, building on the skills learned in the intermediate and beginner tutorials, understanding design options if you are using a 4-axis CNC approach, getting tips on modeling your own wheel designs, and how to calculate mass of a model. Before we go any further, please refer to the beginners and intermediate tutorials in this section if you haven't already, as this tutorial builds upon skills learned in those sessions. Also, it is vital that you check the f1inSchools regulations, as you will need these to design your car, as many are critical regulations, meaning you have to comply or you will not be eligible for awards. Also, the rules change from year to year, so make sure you go to the website and check it out. Tip set 1. Let's talk about a few alternative approaches. In this video, you will learn a few alternative ways of modeling an f1inSchools car in Autodesk Fusion 360. After completing this, you will have learned various different methods for modeling a car. In this activity, you will learn how to do the following in Fusion 360. Create a T-spline block, use the sculpt environment in more creative ways, create a loft profile, create alternative wing structures. Step 1. Create a T-spline block. In a new file, enter the sculpt environment, and let's sketch a 2-point rectangle. Select the right plane, start from the origin, and draw it out 210 by 50. And click Return. Tip: drawing the block 210 rather than 223 means you draw it the maximum possible size that can be machined. Click Isometric, click Create, and Extrude. Select the sketch. Make sure you have it set to symmetric on direction. Pull it out and type in 32.5. This will create the shape. Click OK. Click Modify and Fill Hole. Click the edges. Maintain crease on edges. Click OK. Then do the same to the other side. In the model environment, add the tether line and the CO2 slide canister in the normal way. Dimension that 29 millimeters from the base. Now add in center point rectangle. This should be 6 wide by 12 deep. Click Return and stop the sketch. Click the Rotate into Isometric. Select Modify. Select your rectangle sketch. Set the distance to all, flip it, and make sure it's set to cut. Click OK. Open up your sketches, turn on that previous sketch, press Pull, select your circle, drag it inward, enter -52. Click OK. Now turn that sketch back off and save. By double-clicking the form icon in the timeline, you can now edit the block in the sculpted environment. You can now use the entire block to push, pull, and twist the shape of the car body. Add a line of symmetry through the center to duplicate all of your edits on both sides of the car. Subdividing the faces will give you even more control. Select and shift. Modifying as a wireframe will make it easier to see where the canister chamber and tether line guide are. Step 2. I hope you took a minute to experiment and create a design for your car. The freeform sculpt environment allows you a large amount of flexibility and experimentation opportunities. You need to be careful that what you create is within the f1inSchools technical regulations and also physically possible to construct. When editing, the T-splines in your model cannot cross over, so look closely at how they come together. If you click Finish Form and you get an error message, you should return to try to fix it. You can usually undo and see just where your problem came in. Sometimes, even when you think it's worked, when you finish form, an error message will show, highlighting the areas with bad geometry. One way to prevent this is to translate the T-splines below it further down. Using a mixture of the options on the triad indicator, you can experiment with a variety of organic forms. Combine this sculpt style modeling with form modeling by drawing on the base, then pressing and pulling. By extruding, you can add some really nice straight lines. You can also cut away by creating a sketch on the backplane. Remember, you can always go back to the T-splines and edit at any time. Be aware that using this method, you can produce shapes that will not always fit inside the main block. Remember to check the rules and regulations by using the sketching techniques described in the intermediate tutorial. Step 3. Another way to create organic looking shapes in the model environment is to create loft. You can select different types of shapes and use them to create all sorts of cutting. You can still drag things by pressing press pull, but you always want to remember to check the rules and regulations for final length. Step 4. Create alternative wing structures. The wings can be made using parametric or freeform methods. By creating an offset plane, we can sketch our wings profile. Be sure to include a center line. Grab your spline tool. This line can then be offset. And mirrored. Can then be extruded and create a new body. Click OK. Let's add a few fillets. Click OK again. Let's move it. You can quickly edit and 3D print a range of angles to test for efficiency and effectiveness. Also on the body browser window, copy and paste of these bodies allows for some interesting wing concepts. Back in the sculpt environment, you are able to create freeform shapes. If you create a rectangle and add in some length and height symmetry, you can select certain faces and just delete through. You could also cut holes at an angle by constructing a plane at an angle. You can also create a sketch to be the basis for a revolve and create your wings that way. Make it symmetric and create a new body. Click OK. Find your body. And move it into position. Now you're ready to support a range of front wing designs. The rear wing follows much of the same principles. You can create interesting shapes by using cross-section shapes from the sketch in the sculpt environment. Trim away the excess. Extrude. Add a few more faces. Click OK. Now let's add some symmetry. Click OK. Fill the holes. Now you can modify until your heart's content. Always remember to save your work.